Let's compare the military forces of Australia and Sri Lanka. Australia has more land area than Sri Lanka. Sri Jayawardenepura Kotte is the capital of Sri Lanka and Canberra is the capital of Australia. Australia is populous than Sri Lanka. Australian dollar is the currency of Australia and Sri Lankan rupee is the currency of Sri Lanka. GDP expectation of Australia in 2022 is higher than Sri Lanka. What are the military forces of these two countries? Australia is more powerful than Sri Lanka when military power is compared in 2022. Australian allocation of defence budget in 2022 is higher than Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has more active personnel than Australia. Australia has more reserve personnel than Sri Lanka. Australia has no paramilitary force. Sri Lanka has more total personnel than Australia. Let's compare the land forces of these two countries. Sri Lanka has more tanks than Australia. Australia has more armoured vehicles than Sri Lanka. Both countries don't have self-propelled artilleries. Sri Lanka has more towed artilleries than Australia. Australia has no rocket projectors. Both countries do not process nuclear weapons. Let's compare the air forces of Australia and Sri Lanka. Australia is more powerful than Sri Lanka when total aircraft strength is compared in 2022. Australia has more fighters than Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has no dedicated attacks. Australia has more transports than Sri Lanka. And trainers too. Australia has more special mission aircrafts than Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has no tanker fleets. Australia has more helicopters than Sri Lanka. And attack helicopters too. Australia has more airports than Sri Lanka. Let's compare the naval forces of Australia and Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is more powerful than Australia when total naval assets are compared in 2022. Both countries don't have aircraft carriers. Sri Lanka has no helicopter carriers but Australia has two. Sri Lanka has no destroyers. Australia has more frigates than Sri Lanka. Both countries don't have corvettes. Sri Lanka has no submarines but Australia has 6. Sri Lanka has more patrol vessels than Australia. Sri Lanka has no mine warfares but Australia has 4. Australia has more ports than Sri Lanka.